Hey, everybody. Tonight we're going to have an important discussion about sexual representation and diversity in comics. We have a great panel put together tonight. We are going to be selectively choosing the questions that we're going to be answering this evening just to make sure that we don't step into something that I think is not necessarily too controversial, but maybe a loaded question that I don't want to have any of my panelists have to worry about getting in trouble with. So you can ask your questions below, but understand that as the moderator, it's my job to make sure that no one is put at risk by saying something. With that in mind, I'd like to thank the panelists and welcome them in because this is not an easy discussion. And we are going to be very raw and very honest and very real with you tonight. So feel free to ask questions, but I'm going to start introducing this amazing panel. We're going to start with, I guess we'll start with you, Varian, just because of the order in which it is. You're up, and we'll show the art that he's making while he introduces himself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Varian Grant. I am co-owner of Last Call Comics. Uh, First book I ever did was back in 2008. It was a black and white interior action comedy called Psycho Sirens. I also am the founder of IndieVolt.com, IndieVolt Radio and IndieVolt TV, where we cover independent comics mainly. We do independent film and music as well. And I'm also a publisher of Last Call Comics. I'm working on some art right now, and I am excited to be here tonight and talk about this subject.
And we're going to bring in Lola.
I don't say much. Hey
Well,
guys,
tell him just to find you on Geekasm when and all that.
yeah, I was going to. I'm Lola. I'm also the co-owner host of Geekasm, found on Indie Gold channel on YouTube. You can find Geekasm at 9 p.m. every Wednesday night.
And then we have the one, the only, Randy Zimmer.
Hey,
Zimmer.
hey everybody, that's me. I'm drawing at the same time, so just like Varian, only I'm not showing what I'm doing. Hey everybody out there, Randy Zimmerman, independent comic producer. I've done just about everything in independent and alternative comics that you can imagine. I've been doing this gig for many years. It's in the blood and it's not going away. So I'm going to keep doing it until I die. I'm an award-winning commercial and graphic artist. Do a lot of advertising work that also includes sequential artwork. The creator, The Preservers. I've done books like War of the Worlds, Spank the Monkey for 10 years. I was working on the last decade. I was doing a newspaper here around my local area called Flint Comics and Entertainment, where we moved through 10,000 copies of a newspaper publication that was advertiser supported. I'm just a big lover of comics and a big buff of comics history. So I think that about explains it.
And we have the great Marcus Roberts with us this evening.
I am Marcus Roberts. I am not only an independent comic book creator, but also the publishing manager for Second Sight Studios. I'm also the creator of the Glyph Award nominated The Protector. I've done work with several comic book creators here in the comic book community, and I'm always available for anything to help out the community because we are a big community. We have people on various levels, and we need to help each other out so we can sustain ourselves.
All right, so since we don't have an audience here yet asking questions, there are people watching. I'm going to let you guys pick the topic. We can talk about sexual harassment in comics. We can talk about why diversity matters to you, or we can talk about what we think the future of comics is with the new Warriors coming out and what that means, because those are three hot topics right now. Lola, what would you want to talk about out of those three topics?
I don't know.
Okay. All right, Marcus.
Else pick. I'm
Marcus.
good at picking things.
All right, Marcus, what do you think? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to start tonight's conversation?
Well, let's talk about the sexual harassment in comics.
All right.
Because I believe that's something that has gone unsaid for a long time, and now that we hear more and more about it, we're appalled by the behavior of some of the people whom we respected as professionals, and see that their personal lives are just terrible.
that's a good point. I mean, we are kind of. I mean, it's when you look at what's happened the last couple of years in entertainment altogether. You've got people who have fallen from grace, and on both sides. I mean, um, you know, I'm a big fan, big, huge fan of Ozzy Argento, and and then when the whole Me Too thing was happening, and she got brought in on it like this. She was she had relations with a young boy. Um, that broke my heart because one, I liked Ozzy, but I'm like, wow, this is someone that I respected. You and she was out there advocating for the women who had been touched by Harvey Weinstein or abused by Harvey Weinstein and others, and then she was a perpetrator of the same activity. So, or I should say, similar activity. Um, yeah, it's just entertainment is just so it's so rampant, and we've had discussions before, Rob, about this is like the price that people are paying. I know someone on my show once said it's the price they're paying for trying to take shortcuts rather than hard work and you know putting their nose to the grindstone and being up those late nights 2 3 in the morning when someone wants to help you, oh, I'll help you, but first you gotta do this is the price they're paying. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but that's what was said on my show.
Well, let's unpack that a bit then. Since we're talking about this, first off, let me ask a blunt and flat out question: have any of you guys watched someone be a harassing person to someone and stepped up and intervened? Has anyone been part of something that was part of a movement to stop it? I'm not going to ask anyone to incriminate themselves. If they know something or know a person, please don't out them. I don't want you getting in trouble. I want to stress that it's about if you have and what did you do about it. I'm pretty vocal. I'm not going to dance around this. Everyone knows that I am not happy with what Dirk Manning did to all those women. I don't give a shit. It's the truth. He did some scummy things to some women. I have stood up against it. It has come and gone. The community, if we're calling it a community, and Varian's probably more right, it's an industry, has let him pass by with this. And his publishers never made a personal or a public statement about it. It was just allowed to go on. No one called him out for it, and it was all let to be. So, I mean, I'm not going to dance around. I'm not going to act like it didn't happen. That's just the truth. You guys can find your own truth. Go online, Google Dirk Manning, put Dirk Manning in the Facebook. This is some things he's been accused of doing. Some women have flat out said this is what it has. And those women, multiple, have the same stories. And it's very hard to have the same stories with different similarities, but just different enough that it doesn't seem coordinated without admitting that this is happening. And it's not just Dirk. It's a lot of men have probably been doing this. So it's up to us to stand up and call these people out. I don't care. Give me a cease and desist letter. Don't invite me to cons, blackball me from a con. I'd rather do what's right. And I won't go into it because I made an agreement, but there was someone that I was part of a group with, and I allowed agreement to be made that I still regret to this day, and I honor it because I respect the people. But we kicked him out of the group for shit he was doing that was wrong. And to this date, I should have just taken him to task and publicly went at him, but I was asked not to by people I respect. So I've stood up. Have you guys stood up? Or Lola, have you stood up? Or do you have any opinions on this? Do you have any suggestions on how to move forward? I'm opening it up to you guys. There's no right answer here right now. It's just us talking.
I've never been in that situation that I can remember.
Well, you haven't been in that situation in the comic industry.
Yeah.
Like outside the comic industry, yeah, but inside of it, she's been pretty lucky. But that's because we're normally always together. Although there are scummy individuals who preyed on her and tried to get her into compromising situations. Like, oh, I mean, we had somebody, hey, come help me do with my stock. Well, you go ahead and tell it. I'm sorry, I don't have to.
Oh, that one?
Yeah.
Well, let's turn on her mic if she's going to do that.
Yeah, go ahead. Here.
Michael?
It is on. Now it is.
I muted Varian so I can control it now. Go ahead.
He's controlling us now.
Awesome.
See?
Now you make it sound dirty, and I'm okay with that. All right.
Oh, I have one person that I didn't see it at first, not until it blew up and way out of proportion. And yeah, I made a lot of mistakes, stuff like that. But I didn't see that he was trying to. He had a different agenda, and I didn't notice it until it was too late.
Okay. Randy,
Yes.
I know that you've been outspoken about the Dirk situation as I have on your show. You've made a couple references to it, so I know you've stood up. How do you feel about the whole scenario of the industry not really calling out the bad purveyors of sexual misdeeds?
Well, I've been doing shows for years and years, and it's always been a boys' club. It's always been a mostly misogynistic art form up until the last, I would say, maybe the last 10 years. And not really an exclusive boys' club, but pretty close to it. I like to try to remind people that there were times that we were at conventions that if we saw a girl actually at a show, we were stunned, and then we figured that it either had to be um, somebody's girlfriend that got dragged to the show or a unicorn who was actually reading ElfQuest and Sandman and was thus actually there for comics. A woman in the comics, let alone in the industry, was an incredibly rare thing. When there were always stories of the bullpen offices at Marvel and DC and their misogynistic treatment. It was almost like a boys' club shop rat mentality, of dirty jokes and harassment and all of that. But the thing is that times have changed. Times it's different. There's smaller comics are becoming more diverse. There's more of a variety of diverse talent in the market, and there has to be a better decorum. There just has to be. And the old boys club has to stop. And it has to go away. There has to be a level of maturity in the industry. There is a level of professionalism that has to be seen and maintained, in my opinion.
Now,
And and anybody going against that, anybody still following the old boy network, anybody still in the old ways or still doing the old things that we saw over and over again has got to stop. It's got to stop, and it's got to go away. It's got to be called up and exposed, and these people have to make some compensation or get in my opinion, they need to get out of the business.
okay, so to touch on that a little bit,
But
um,
I saw it. I saw it happening at shows. Very rarely did I socialize after conventions. I'd come in, do the show, and then drive back home. The most of the conventions I did were local, so that I could stay at home anyway. You know.
so
So
to,
there was a rare instance where I would do a party or two, but once I early on did a lot of that stuff, saw what was happening. It wasn't favorable to me, so I just stayed to myself.
Fair enough. So going in that theme, we have to admit that Dirk did apologize. A lot of us felt that the apology was kind of empty, and it didn't touch on the things he did. So, how does a creator? Because it's been this boys'
No,
club.
there. I don't mean to step on you there, but I think there's a big difference between an apology and manipulation.
And I agree with you, but my question is more towards, let's say that someone gives a real apology. Let's reframe it. Let's say someone really comes out, throws himself on his sword,
Yeah.
isn't manipulating, says, "I screwed up. Look,
Yeah.
I'm going to therapy. I've clearly got some issues I need to work out. I'm going to come back in 6 months. I'm going to do the work.
Great.
Please give me the time."
Yep.
Can we forgive them, considering we've built this cesspool, if you will? Like, we've built this boys' club in comics. Not necessarily anyone on this panel, but the industry itself has built the cesspool.
But
Do we give a room for forgiveness then?
I think that if they've done their due diligence to the point where they've you feel that their apology is as sincere, absolutely. That, and again, that shows the part of maturity and professionalism of, okay, that's it. As long as you've made some sort of compensation to the people you've offended and they're cool, then let's move on. You know, you didn't do anything. It's not that you didn't do anything to me personally, because you did. You're screwing with my industry.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you're screwing with the perception of the professionalism in this market, and it needs to be compensated.
And because this is considered to be a professional industry,
No, well,
then
it needs to be. It
we
needs to be
need
considered.
the sensitivity training. And as new wave as sensitivity training sounds, it is effective and it does make a difference because unfortunately, some guys don't know. They grew up with this type of behavior. They don't see where the behavior is wrong because it's been reinforced over their lifetime.
Mhm.
And then they get into a situation where the behavior stands out as being bad
Right.
and they're confused. So they don't know. So we do need some type of sensitivity training. And I've been in the situation and just currently working with a young lady, and she expressed to me how, is fighting for recognition amongst the men, how no matter how good she is, no matter how hard she worked, if her name and a man's name is both on the book, the men or the people gravitate toward the men. So having with the women creators having to deal with such things from the outside and then have to battle men on the inside, it's a hard thing.
Right.
So we do need some type of sensitivity training,
Okay,
community wide.
but okay, let me ask you. The first question I have to ask, and this is from my retail background, are we saying that all these men haven't had a job that has had sexual harassment training? Are we really going to frame it that way? Are these men really innocent? And that's an honest question. I know it sounds angry, and that's my manager coming out of me, and I can't help it because I've had to do these seminars, these sexual harassment seminars. And I recently had someone who's in charge of their own HR department, and they told me something that was absolutely outlandish and against the law, and they didn't think it was against the law, and I had to bring it up on a phone and show them it was against the law. So there's definitely misinformation. I understand that. But are we really saying these guys don't know better? Is that really where we're at? Do you really think that
Not
these
that they don't know better.
Okay.
We have to find the mic.
I am for the sensitivity training, Marcus. I'm with you. We're going to talk about how to implement that actually next. But what were you saying, Varian?
Not only do we like, there's a lot of guys who not only do they not have that training, they never received it. They honestly don't care. I hate to say it that way, but it's true. Here, well, mute Lola's mic. That way, I'm not turned around.
Switch the mics for us.
Yeah.
And mute his, please.
You're good, Varian. Go. Varian? Are you muted on your end? Because you're unmuted on mine.
Am I? Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, so no, what the thing is, okay, my first bullpen, I opened it up. I had an office bullpen situation, and we had booth girls, and I think I told you this before. We had the booth girls, and then we had female artists that worked down there, side by side with the guys. And I will be honest with you, the female artists, they were treated a little bit more respectful than we treated the models. And it was the weirdest unspoken thing. Like, the models would come in there, and we'd all like look over. You get one of the models reaches over, goes into the refrigerator, and bends over and get a pop, and everybody's turning their head over and watching. Whereas one of the young ladies who worked there with us, who was equally attractive, she'd walk over to that same refrigerator, bend down and get a pop. No one turned their head. So it was this weird. We just didn't do it. Now, granted, I mean, I can tell you this too. That particular era, and this is just 07, 08, 09. I think everybody that was down there might owe each other apologies because there were improper things said, nothing improperly done. I did have to get on, and you mentioned that we have to stop it. I did have to get my website guy told because he had made a move on my secretary on a date. Uh, she stopped, or she allowed most of it to go through. She had clear, she had a point where she said, "Okay, we can stop now." And after that, he just thought he was going to be able to get it whenever he wanted to, and he created a real like awkward situation around the office, and we had to get rid of him. But and that was one of the catalysts for getting rid of him too. That situation, but you know, some of these guys don't know. The only time, I mean, I've had a lot of jobs, and Rob, the only time that I got sexual harassment training was at General Motors. That was it. I never had sexual harassment training at any job. I'm talking about from, yeah, from Toys R Us to the Palace of Auburn Hills, doing cable for Comcast, UPS, FedEx, you name it. I never had it until I got to General Motors, and it was a video. It was like an hour long video.
Wow, it was so different in New York. I worked at Toys R Us. I
Mhm.
had to have the sexual harassment training.
I had it too.
Even back then, yeah.
Mm-mm.
You sure you didn't sit through it?
No, yeah, didn't give it to us. Didn't give us sexual harassment training. In
I
fact,
have a
if
whole course in college I have to do right now about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
in fact, had they given us sexual harassment training, um, I probably wouldn't have a friend now. It wasn't. I didn't. I should let me phrase that right. I didn't sexually harass her, but a friend of mine. We all went out and had drinks and everything. There was no sexual activity, but it was like, you know, I've seen stuff now in these videos where you better not even say, "Hey, what are you doing tonight?" So you
Yeah.
got to be careful. And then too, you wonder, devil's advocate. I know that's your job, but sometimes people send signals. You think, oh, this person likes me. They want to go hang out. Maybe that's what they want to do. They want to hang out. They like you. They don't want to have sex with you.
Well, I mean, look, relationships, I think we can all agree, are never simple. And I think there's definitely both sides to argue. I'd rather stay away from that argument because it never goes to the right place. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
If you'll say something, someone will twist your words, and the next thing you know, we're all trying to dig out of, well, that's not what he meant. And I don't want to play those games. What I'd rather talk about is how could we implement sensitivity training in comics? Was your idea, Marcus? How do we do that? How would it be a course that was given at maybe Comic Cons, an online course that someone would have to sign up and show before they showed up to a show to show that they understood sexual harassment training? Well, what do you got in mind?
I think it is something that would probably initially have to be instituted through the con system, uh, some type of training for the vendors or the participants and how they treat the customers. And hopefully they take that information that they learn or glean from that to wherever their companies are. Because the although the harassment happens in the office settings, we're at a point now where, I mean, we got so many different publishing companies and so many different publishers that are small companies that work from home like me. So the only time I really have contact with the public is at the conventions. And knowing how to conduct myself as a comic book professional at the convention, to me, is key to the promoter wanting me to come back.
And that's fair, but I mean, in the same breath, we have in our contracts that people shouldn't be in front of their table. I see people in front of their table. People shouldn't use microphones, and they're still using microphones, and they shouldn't be using fan art. We see fan art, and do you think that that's actually the point? Is we sign these contracts, we do these things, and we still do the behaviors. Do you think sensitivity training would actually get there? Would really get people to stop? Do you think that's realistic? And I'm hoping you're right, but I'm asking the whole panel: do we think that just a simple class could maybe curb this? Could that really be? Could it be that simple?
I don't think a simple class would do it. I think that the cons are going to say this, and Randy's a promoter, so these cons have several things in your. Besides being a publisher, Randy's done promotion, and it says, sexual harassment, cosplay is not a consent. Sexual harassment will not be tolerated. These are rules at Comic Cons. I have to think it's at some point, yeah, the con can enforce those rules while you're at the show. But what I think needs to happen is needs to be, these changes need to be made on a professional and company based level. If I bring you, Rob, down to a convention in wherever, we go to Texas, and you go out there and you do something, not only are you in trouble, but the person who brought you's in trouble. And so, especially if you're working with my company and someone comes up and says, "Hey, Rob Anderson, who puts a book out through you, has been doing X, Y, and Z. I need to be held accountable, and I need to because otherwise, if I don't do anything, then I'm kind of saying, okay, I'm cool with what you did. I don't care.
You're
Okay,
enabling.
yeah, but well, hold on. To play the devil's advocate, who makes the decision? Who's the one who goes in and investigates and decides who is right? Because again, some of this is going into people's bedrooms. Some of this is going into a personal relationship that at times, let's be honest, people lie. People get mad, people get hurt, people find out someone cheated on them, and suddenly a story gets bent. Or someone has a regret the next day because whatever. They were decided they were high on weed, they were both high, and the next day, oh, I didn't really want that. Like it gets messy, is my point. So who's going to play judge in that regard, Varian? Because it is. It's not a simple thing. We've all had friends who have been accused of things, and sometimes it's been true, and sometimes it hasn't been true.
You do I mean, as a publisher, I would do the investigation. I want to know what went on, not just from you, because you're gonna tell me your side of the story. I want to know who, the person who you offended or the people. I want them to come to me and explain to me, and I'm gonna reach out to them and ask them, hey, like the first, okay, if that happened to me at a show, if someone came to me and said Rob Anderson did X, Y, and Z, first of all, Rob, I'm pulling you off the show floor. I'm pulling you off the show floor. I'm pulling your content from the table. Okay, and then you and I are gonna have a conversation that night. I'm gonna have a conversation with the victims. I'm gonna, or at least when I get home, and figure out what to do. And within 4 to 5 days, I'm gonna make a statement. But if I'm silent on it, I'm enabling you to go back out there and do it again.
Okay, I get that. Okay, but how do you make the determination? Is my point, because it's her versus me now saying it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because for me, for the record, I'm not
Mhm.
trying to say it's always man and woman, and I'm trying to be very transparent here.
Mhm.
I am straight, so it would be a woman. If a guy's saying I sexually harassed them, I'll be honest with you, they're lying or they couldn't take a joke. And I probably shouldn't have said the joke. I probably did take a bad joke, but I wasn't sexually harassing them because I'm a straight person. So you'd be talking to a woman who came up to you and said, Rob did X. How do you prove that I'm lying or she's lying? Because one of us is obviously lying.
Again, I gotta do the investigation. I gotta talk to both of you, and I've got to ask certain pointed questions. And now, the minute I got a friend who she says she got pregnant through a non-consensual sexual act, and she told me that when the police actually interrogated her or asked her a question, she felt interrogated, so she just left the room. She got up, left. She was 16 years old. Got up, left the room, and didn't want to talk to the officer anymore. So you gotta be careful about that too, because you might upset the person. But I mean, one allegation, again, we can handle that. Rob, you need to do this. You're going to be off the circuit for a month or two. You got to get punished. Because you might tell me the truth, but in certain cases where, again, a lot of people start coming forward with the same story, Rob, you're shit canned. You're done.
No, but,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but now as a publisher, because now you're my publisher, let's say that
Oh, no, I'm not. So I'll put a rumor out there. I'm just kidding.
No, you put my name out there, so now what? It's all about me now, so you're getting dragged down too. So you're my publisher. I tell you, I didn't do it. This chick's just crazy and vindictive because I didn't want to have sex with her, and I blew her off because I didn't feel it. And now she's making up things to hurt me. And you don't trust me. You trust her because maybe she's friends with Lola. And Lola says, "Oh, I don't really think she'd lie about this. I've never seen her do that." And all her character says she'd never lie, and you're like, well, Rob, I'm sorry. I'm just times are tough. I can't really side with you on this because if I do, it's going to look bad. I'm going to have to make a call for the publisher. I'm going to give you a choice. You can back out and you can fire me. So I turn around, being me, and say, fuck you, fire me. So you do. You say, okay, I call your bluff. You're fired. And 3 months down the line, she gets caught doing the same thing to another dude, and suddenly it all becomes clear. Are you ready to be sued over that?
That would be a situation that I probably would not be prepared for. Honestly, I'd have to get my lawyer involved. But yeah, that would suck to be a part of. That would not be.
Well, welcome to being a publisher in this day and age.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, that's why I'm very careful of who I bring on in terms of their outside activity. And I talk to you can ask a lot of them. I talk to them left and right about certain things. However, there are big gaping holes I also miss that I should probably red flags. Randy will tell you there's huge red flags.
I'm not saying nothing.
Yeah, that I should take on it, but I don't. So, but yeah, I guess in that situation, I mean, I would call you up privately and apologize. If she got called.
Remember, you want to listen to me and not listen to her. I told her you didn't want to hear me. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
You just ruined someone's career. And I do understand, like, with going back to the Dirk thing, I understand why some of these publishers don't want anything to do with it, because it's stepping in dog shit. No matter what you do, it's a bad look. And even not saying anything's a bad look. And we've said that. Not having a comment on it, it's too late. No matter what they say now, no matter what comes out later, they already missed their window to make a statement. And their statement could have been as easy as we're investigating it internally. It could have been that simple. We're investigating this internally, and when we find something, we will have a comment. But for now, it's an internal investigation. It's that simple. It could have just been acknowledging that you knew something was happening. But when you start firing someone, oh my, you take on liability and responsibility. Because again, these are things that Dirk has taken responsibility. Dirk has said he has done some of it. He was never clear about what he did, so we're not sure now. He could just be taking responsibility for people calling him out on social media because there was no transparency. And like Randy has said, it's almost manipulative. I'm going to just say sorry for what I think I have to say sorry for. So now it's so muddled that we don't even know what to do. And this case, the reason we're talking about it a lot is this is going to determine what happens next, because everyone's watching this, whether they're talking about it publicly or not. People are whispering in private groups right now, talking about this situation and privately watching how it goes down. And there are a lot of people who are associated, not necessarily with Dirk, but people associated in comics who are and have done something wrong, and they're wondering if the axe is coming for them next.
Well, shit, you have to. I know there's a person on this panel who's not worried about that.
I'm not worried about it.
I'm not worried about it.
Randy, I know, is not worried about it. He's been married since Jesus.
Yes. Actually, not Jesus. Come on. George Washington.
George Washington. Yeah, so, and what are you worried about? Oh, Varian, never mind. Yeah, there might be problems there.
Yeah.
No, I would be worried about it if I had a publishing company, but I would have to, the contracts now have grown from 5 or 6 pages long to being 20, 25 pages long, because now it's gotten to the point where you can't trust the talent to understand what a level of public decorum means. Because everybody gets so on social media, and it only takes an angry word on Twitter before you're firing off who knows what and alienating tens to hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
It only takes one message.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
And
especially if you're remotely passive aggressive, or you put out a misogynistic remark or something like that. And then you have to explain, or you have to detail in your contract now why you can't go around and blockchain people, because obviously people's businesses get affected just by asking their talent not to blockchain people.
Yeah.
And you have to be extra careful. So.
And Varian, you want to know if I'm afraid? I'm afraid of someone lying about me, because look what they do with my fetish book.
Yeah.
It's already happened. People have come to cancel me, and they can't figure out why it didn't work. And it didn't work because I have integrity, because I'm not the monster they make me out to be. People will lie about you, man. I'm terrified to date, not because I don't know how to date, but because I don't want to step on one girl's wrong foot and say something that upsets them, or I don't live up to being Prince Charming to them, and they try to get back at me, because that shit really happens.
I'll tell you right now, I know a young lady right now who is a walking problem in the industry, and she's forcing her way. She'll bounce out of the industry for like a year or two, then she'll come right back. Okay, she is a walking problem. She's already convinced a buddy of mine who wrote a comic for me. She already told me privately.
It wasn't me.
No. She told me privately that a buddy of mine told me and Lola that a buddy of ours who wrote a comic for me tried to force his way on her. But to this day, and I cannot understand it, he is still on Facebook with her, and every time she makes a post about a poor me post, he's the first one up there. Oh, what's wrong? How can I help? And I've told him it's going to come back to bite you square in your ass. And he doesn't believe me. He thinks that She never do that, but you know what? She told us publicly. I mean, she told us privately, and there was other people in the room too when she said it who told him. He doesn't think it's going to come back to bite him, but it will. And again, he hasn't. Since I found out about it, I haven't asked him to do a book since.
Yeah, it's hard trying to get people to leave personal out of their professional. And even not just in the comic book industry, even on a regular job, even in corporate jobs, we want our employees to be professional and have certain professional standards. But if they come across somebody they like, then they're going to talk to them. That's the nature of relationships, whether it be male, female, male, male, or female, female. You see somebody you like, you want to talk to them. But it's a line there, and that line is invisible. And oftentimes you don't know you've crossed that line until you're on the other side.
Well, I have to. No, wait. Those are imaginary lines that are just. Those aren't real.
Yeah.
If you don't know,
as imaginary as they are, they still exist.
No.
Conversation can go, and this is what I've experienced. Talking with a young lady, we're laughing, we're joking, and I'm thinking we are on the same level as far as the jokes. And then all of a sudden she's offended by the jokes that I'm telling, even though we were just doing the same thing, because I crossed some invisible line there.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm from George Carlin's school, and you know this, Marcus. We've talked. I don't believe in those lines because those lines are bullshit. If I say something that offends you, you have every right to be offended. But that's life. You're going to say something that's going to offend me occasionally, and friendship means you go, okay, you're an idiot, and you call the other person out, and you move on. I don't want to confuse those imaginary lines with real things, real tangible things. You know, there's a difference between telling a dirty joke and you striking out on a person going, hey, that makes me uncomfortable, please don't do that, versus, oh, I'm going to fuck you so hard when we get in private. That's a clear line violation. That's a threat almost to a person not consenting. So
remember the times we live in. We live in a time where, and we've seen this happen. You have people who step up and say, this happened to me. This person did this to me. And the person's like, I didn't know I did anything wrong. How many accusers that Bill Cosby had that were actual and then that weren't actual, but yet they still accused them because they felt he crossed the line.
Well, he got convicted. I don't know if we want to bring
he didn't get convicted on every accusation. He got convicted on specific accusations, not all of them.
Yeah, but I see a guy pouring alcohol, like fuel on a fire, and there's 10 other fires right behind him. I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt and not say he didn't set those other fires. You know what I'm saying? You get convicted.
But it has to be proven. If we just go off innuendo, then anybody can make an accusation.
But they did.
Anybody can jump on it and say, but he wasn't convicted on every accusation. Some of the accusations were proven to be false. So, you know, it's that type of touchy situation. It's like, even though you and I agree 100%, we still differ on this. So it's always going to be that difference, and that's where people get in trouble. Instead of everybody like being on the same page, which is the point we're at. Like, can I touch you? Is it okay? Yes, you can touch me. Can I stand 2 feet close to you? Is that okay? I mean, we're almost at that point because we're scared that we're going to do something that crosses a line that we aren't aware of.
It's 6 feet away for distance.
No, only social person. Again, I think that's very different than saying something. I think whenever it comes to touch, you know what? I'm going to say it. I've been a guy who's always asked permission before I did something, aside from maybe a kiss. The first kiss, usually you don't ask for a first kiss. And usually don't get a first kiss wrong. I don't know about any of you, but I've never had a first kiss that was wrong and I mistook the situation. I've never misread that, but I've had girlfriends complain, and me and Varian talked about that, how because I'm from the BDSM culture, I ask for a lot of consent. There's a lot of things I ask for permission for. And my book, if you buy it now, the BDSM survey, actually has a way for you guys to communicate what is consensual and what is not consensual. So in that, I actually agree with taking your time. I don't see a problem with having to ask someone, before you stick something in them if you have permission to stick something in them. Like, I don't think this is a hard one to ask permission for. I think we can't assume that we can just put things in other people or even touch them inappropriately, because we do have that word, inappropriate touching. So we are trained to know there is touching that is inappropriate and appropriate. And now we're not even going to be able to shake hands anymore. We're going to be doing this. That's the future. But I do want to switch off on this because we spent a good portion of the time on this. I want to talk about the future of comics and diversity. And I want to talk about New Warriors. Has everyone seen the New Warriors promo?
Yeah.
Okay. How is that not a slap in the face to start controversy? How can we take that serious? If this is the future of comics for Marvel, how can we take Marvel seriously? And we haven't read the book, and I stress this again, no one's read the book. Has anyone read the book on the panel?
No.
Okay. So we're judging just for the thing. For all we know, this could be the best written thing in this video.
I have to say, at this point in development, there's probably not a book yet.
You think that this has just been thrown out there to see feelers?
Oh, in my honest opinion,
Yeah.
I think that was thrown out there on purpose, just to tick a lot of people off.
Oh, so this was just a shine on moment.
I don't think, I would be amazed if they had a book in production at the time that they made the announcement. I'd be stunned.
Granted, he's got a point. There is no sequential art like samples.
No,
There's a bunch of pinups.
There's a cover.
Yeah.
There's a cover. There's character drawings. And for Marvel, DC are big mainstream companies. It takes them a year to 18 months to actually go from concept to the newsstand.
Yeah.
And I think they are in their first couple of months of doing this. I think they did it on purpose to throw it out there because, and again, this is my opinion from what I've been able to discern from the company. There are factions up there at Marvel that drastically want to toss the retail system. Drastically. Because they see it, the direct market, Diamond and the retailers, because they see it as a bunch of misogynistic old men, mostly white, mostly stuck in their ways, in the old ways. And they are doing anything that they can now to hit buttons and touch on points and to literally screw, especially with the landmark characters and the landmark ideas. There's a lot of people out there who do videos, and I don't know how far into CG you want to get on this, but Zach, Richard Meyer's favorite comic was always New Warriors. His favorite character was always Night Thrasher. So to take New Warriors and Night Thrasher and totally liberalize, not liberalize, that's not the right word, but to totally turn them into a left propaganda tool, they knew was going to incite a lot of reaction, a lot of negative reaction that they want the attention from. Because in Marvel's mind, on a lot of this stuff, any publicity is good publicity, and if we can, throw a couple of old retailers out of the business and readers out of the business, we don't make these books for you anyway.
All right, I got to ask Lola. You see a character named Safe Space. What do you instantly think? Like, I'm taking it away from the men for a minute. A woman, you see Safe Space. Help me out. Are we wrong, or is that like a red flag?
I laughed.
She says she laughs.
I did laugh.
Yeah.
Marcus, did you take, like, when you saw it, were you like, someone's fucking with me? This ain't for Marvel. Tell me this ain't true. Someone tell me this ain't true.
That wasn't my impression at all. Sorry, Marcus. I don't mean to step on you. Go ahead.
It was funny to me. I think they are grasping at straws, but at the same time, I can't help but reflect back, and I say this a lot when we talk about diversity and representation. There used to be a cartoon from Cartoon Network back in the day called Shizao, about the little boy who turns into the grown woman superhero. So the comic industry, the comics as an industry, they aren't afraid to try different things. They aren't afraid to step out of safe spaces and try to bring in new readership. And I think this is just an attempt to do that. It's all about capitalism and money, and they're trying to tap into a market and try to bring in money from people that they ordinarily wouldn't sell comic books to.
So the people who want to rip down the comic book industry and have called it misogynistic are suddenly going to run and buy comics because you named a character Safe Space? Is that what Marvel's thinking? Is that like where Marvel's gone? Because Marvel used to be like the groundbreaking comic that took chances on doing right things. I'm lost. I'm really lost at
Even
this.
the people they made that book for are offended.
Right?
There are SJWs who are pissed. They don't like that book. So I don't know who they made it for, but
They made it for controversy.
That I
For
understand.
controversy.
And again, I don't think there's an actual book yet.
I don't think there will be.
I think they made the concept, tossed the concept out there, knowing that the virus was coming.
Oh, yeah, you could definitely do that. And then go, oh, we had to cancel it because of cutbacks because of the virus.
Because there was also another announcement at the same time that they were rebooting America Chavez. And that's a title that they've already done, 3 to 6 different miniseries of her on. And they have seen her numbers over and over and over again. But they're going to bring it back again. How many times do you have to get hit by a sales 2x4 between the eyes to know that that's not a book you want to put out on the market and expect to make any kind of money on? They don't care if they make the money on that book. They have a political statement to say, and they're going to say it.
I want to get there, not caring about making money. I want to get there.
Well, you got to remember, they're owned by the big, corporate mouse.
Oh.
And they're a very, very, very small figure in an incredibly large pond. I mean, you kind of had to realize that they didn't care about their figures when they bumped out all of these excess books to Ollie's. And they're selling them. Ollie's is selling them for $2.99, $3.99, $6.99. That's their stock. That's the lifeblood to the retailer. That's the graphic novel format that they swear by as the big money-making tool for the retailers. And here they literally pooped on the retailers by releasing semi-loads of product to Ollie's at pennies on the dollar, because they didn't care. It just made their year-end figure look a little better, and it was warehouse rental money that they no longer had to pay.
What do you think, Marcus? I saw you trying to say something.
I agree with Randy as far as the politicizing of the comics. And Marvel has really, in years approaching this one, become more and more political. And it really has hurt the quality of their books, because they're trying to make political statements and take political stances and, establish themselves as some type of political voice in comics. And the readership isn't buying it. We want comic books. We want superhero action. We want things the way they were. So we are resisting that.
Marvel has always been progressive. Because Stan Lee was progressive. The people working for Marvel were at the time progressive, maybe not by today's standards so much, but there was always a political message running through Marvel. They broke the comic code on their stance on drugs. They were forerunners as far as diversity goes, and you can't. Giant Size X-Men 1 was, to me, was a major book because they had characters from all over the world, and that's the first time you actually saw such a wide variety of great characters that they later went in and filled out. The big problem now is that they're beating people over the head with the message, and they don't have the talent to competently put that into an entertaining story. They're preaching, they're soapboxing, but they're not entertaining. And that's real obvious when you look at the sales figures. I still tell anybody, Marvel, the retail shops are running on the fumes of Marvel, not the current run of Marvel. But what everybody remembered Marvel as being the great entertainment house of ideas. They were the house of ideas for decades. Now they're the house of propaganda. And they're more concerned about doing life changing socks and toasters that can burn Captain America's shield into a piece of bread than they are into doing entertaining stories and properties to put them out and bring on new readers.
You leave my toaster alone, Randy.
Gotta have that toaster. It's life
You
changing.
need that bread. Now,
It's life changing.
we do have 10 minutes left, and I really want to give everyone a moment to reflect on what they think will help diversity and movement forward in the comic book industry. How do we fix where we're at? Because right now, we're in a situation where readers aren't happy. Across the board, people are complaining a lot. What would you do given the ability? Let's say that the Shazam wizard, the guy who made Shazam, comes up to you, gives you the power to fix comic books. In your opinion, how do you do that? Did you guys hear? Because I saw a cutout for a minute.
Oh, no, I heard you just fine. I was just waiting for everybody else to talk before I started blabbering.
Real quick question. Fanboy gripe there, the wizard who made Shazam is Shazam. Thank you.
Well, we need to get back to the entertainment value, because like Randy just said, all the politicizing and they're beating people over the head with it. Let's get back to writing entertaining comic books and leave all the politics out of it. They're losing readers because the readers aren't interested in the material that they're putting out. And for me, if that were me, I'm saying, okay, well, I got to change what I'm doing. So somebody at Marvel, somebody got to say, hey, we got to change what we're doing because we are losing readers. Their formula is not working.
Yeah. If I could take over today, it'd be a mandate to, all right, all these derivative characters they're making, like the X-Men Children of Atom book, where they're making these characters that are clearly ripoffs of Gambit and Cyclops and all these other characters. No, if you want to make new characters, we can make new characters, but you're not going to make them derivative. You're not going to take legacy characters and turn them into what they weren't all of a sudden. No, well, it's a new millennium. All of a sudden, this character is this person. No, keep them, like there was no reason to make Falcon Captain America. There was no reason. I read the book. I like Sam Wills as a character. We could have elevated the Falcon character.
Yep.
Instead of trying to put him in that, because he's never gonna live. He's never gonna live up to Steve Rogers. He just couldn't. But he don't be the second Captain America. Be the first Falcon.
Yep.
And he wasn't. They just that's why it didn't work. And I know as a black man, I'm tired of being pandered to when it comes with some of these characters. It really upsets me. Even my 9-year-old picks up on that.
Yeah, and the Falcon, that's a good example, because there was actually another black character who was closely associated with Captain America that had faded out. Battlestar. All right, Battlestar off somewhere in the Pegasus Project. Why not bring Battlestar back into the limelight as Captain America instead of getting rid of the Falcon to make him Captain America?
Well, remember Marvel's their editorial memory only goes back 10 years. So
less than that.
Yeah.
Less than that. They don't care. They don't care about their continuity. They don't care about their honoring their history. Because, absolutely. Falcon should have had his own book by now. Storm should have had her own book the same time Wolverine had his book, his own solo title. There should have been a Storm title out there because, in my mind, she's a lot more interesting character than Wolverine. And they could have done so much more with that, with her, than what just marry her off to Black Panther because their melatonin level's the same. Or they're the same CMYK skin tone.
Yeah, I mean,
that didn't make any sense to me at all. And there's
right,
so many.
How do you fix it?
How do you fix it?
How do you fix it, Randy?
You know what you do first off is you have to go through and clean house, and you have to go through and find people with talent. That's the thing. And yes, you have to add different voices, different viewpoints, different opinions. Absolutely. Should have an always open door policy for anybody to bring you a new character. And you need a royalty structure to reward people for doing that, because there's so many people out there that have great ideas that could take, especially an idea that fits into the Marvel universe or DC universe, and really kick ass with a new icon. And that's what's desperately needed. We need new icons. We need to stop abusing the old icons, give them, retire them, grow them old, do whatever you have to do, but don't abuse the icon. Don't bring in a new Green Lantern who fits an ism. Create a new character and build that character with an entertaining story using talented people that can give that character a proper viewpoint. They're out there. It's just that these companies are too lazy, too freaking lazy to go out and try to find new talent. All of the writers, for example, that come in from Marvel are people that have done YA novels. Oh, you wrote a YA book, or you did fan fiction. You can write funny books. Come on, and it's a whole different genre. It's a whole different genre. It's a whole different style of writing. You got to go out there and find writers who want to write comics and want to write good comics with a different viewpoint before you can expect these books to have any level of quality to them.
That's a good point. I actually like that. Lola, you get
you don't just run out there and go, "Hey, you're gay. You can write a gay character."
fair. Lola, how do we do it?
Pretty much took everything I said.
Damn you!
That's what I was thinking. I mean, between him and Varian, they took everything I was gonna say.
Should swap the camera over to Lola. She's a lot prettier to look at than I am.
Here you go, Lola. I don't know why it wasn't switching over. I was trying. I was clicking.
Oh, it's okay. I'm trying to think of something else.
But what about women representation? Do you like how women are represented in comics currently?
Honestly, I haven't read the new stuff. I've been reading more indie stuff.
You're doing better then. You're already winning. You are winning already. There's nothing Marvel's putting out that you need to read. DC, I hear, is doing some good stuff, but now there's this 5G thing that I still don't understand. I thought it was going to be in my phone, and now it's going to be in DC Comics. I don't get what's going on.
I don't like what they're doing with Harley, if that counts.
Oh,
they
yeah.
should go back to the original Harley. That's like my favorite character, and I don't like what they're doing with her.
All right, Randy.
Again, Harley is one type of character that they had that became popular, and now they're trying to mold her into a whole different character. Oh, we got too many female readers reading this character. We're going to have to make her good instead of be a villain. Well, they liked her when she was running around with the big mallet.
Yeah. They should have left her alone.
Why are they going to try to turn her into an anti-hero, and then eventually she's going to be a good guy here any day now if she's not already?
Oh, yeah.
And it's embarrassing. They shouldn't be doing that. They should be creating a new icon to fill that void. They should be out there intentionally aiming at audiences and finding talent with the proper talent in writing comics, drawing comics in order to do good comics. And that's really all they have to do. Because if you do good comics, you can attract anybody. Because people are desperately, the one thing I learned from doing my paper for 10 years is that people are out there desperately looking to be entertained as much and as cheaply as possible. That's the two big factors. And comics, up until the last, 20, 30 years when the prestige format really kicked up, comics were always looked at as cheap, quick, fun entertainment. And with Dark Knight coming in and everything becoming more realistic and everybody getting more angsty and, you have to talk about real subject matter and all this, all of the fun, the entertainment, the whimsy were all just flushed away except for in extremely rare circumstances. And you have to get back to what makes comics entertaining and fun. And you have to look at the mainstream, Marvel and DC, have to look at these companies as money-making properties and not as propaganda tools in order to create the next big IP for them to sell as a movie. They have to consider the movies to come organically out of the new icons.
That's a good point. And with that, Randy, tell them where they can follow you.
I have a Zim Geek channel on YouTube. I am part of the Indie Vault podcast every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. and Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're on Indie Volt Radio and the Indie Volt YouTube channel. Other than that, I have a Facebook. I have a Twitter that I don't respond to very often or contribute on very much, but it's there under Randy Zim. And like I said, I'm on Facebook. That's probably the most direct way to get a hold of me. I've been picking up a lot of friends lately since we started doing these podcasts. So, a lot of people.
All right, Marcus, where can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook. Search Marcus Roberts. I'm on Twitter, Marcus Roberts 1. Second Sight Studios 2020.com. And I'll be around. Always available.
And Varian.
Yeah, you can find me at whenweriot.com. That's whenweriot.com. It's Facebook. Last Call Comics, my publishing company. Indievolt.com. Indievolt.com and Last Call Comics are on any social media platform. On Twitter, if you want to get at me directly, it's kid_V. I also don't respond to Twitter that often, but I am on there more than Randy.
I'm sure he is.
I'm part of Indie Vote, obviously, every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern and Thursday morning at 9 a.m. And then I'm also on Lola's show.
Geekgasm at Wednesdays at 9 p.m.
That's right.
Yes.
And Lola, where can we find you?
Geekgasm, like they said. No. You can find me on Indie Vote Live every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. and Geekgasm every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. And anywhere Last Call goes, I'll be there.
Oh, no.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're out of here. If you want us to do another one of these, we're happy to come and talk about. These are not always the easiest conversations. We try to be as honest as we can be, but you might not agree with us. And if you don't agree with us, feel free. And I have the thing here. Send all hate mail to Indie Volt. That's where I get all the hate mail. Send it
Thanks.
Indie Volt, and I will respond to it on an Indie Volt program later on this year.
That'll be great, Rob. It'll give us something to talk about on the podcast.
You're welcome, guys. Thank you all for being here. Seriously, some great ideas, and clearly people are willing to talk about how to get past the problems we have today. We're all willing to work together, and that's what we have to do. See, this panel was able to talk to each other. We didn't always agree, but no one called anyone a racist, or no one called anyone a Nazi, and no one called anyone a social justice warrior. We were able to have a conversation. Do that in your life. Have conversations. Don't call people names. Try to understand another person's point, and try to tell them what you mean and what your side of it is. We'll see you on the next panel. Thanks for tuning in.